Hi everyone, and welcome to today's video. This is a B1 level ESL lesson, and today we're going to be learning about how to write a summary of an article about sports. So, have you ridden any of these things, and how well can you ride them? A horse, a skateboard, a camel, a bike, or a scooter? And you can put your ideas in the comments in order to generate some conversation. So what happened in these pictures? Can you describe what happened? Well, it looks like this person was riding a bike, and then unfortunately, it looks like maybe he was hit by a car. Right, you're going to listen to Maurice talking about riding his bike. But before listening, we're going to look at the vocabulary that you're going to hear in this listening piece. So it says when you drive a vehicle, you need to turn left or right. You have to signal. If something is indestructible, it cannot be destroyed or it can never break down. If a bad situation is your fault, it means that you are responsible for creating that situation. An eyewitness is someone who sees an event with their own eyes. The motor is usually under the hood of a car. If you are unconscious, you are in a state like sleep. And if you feel relieved, you are happy that a bad thing did not happen. So let's listen.
When I was at university, I used to ride my bike to school every day. My university was in a big city, and there was a lot of traffic on the road, but I never used to give it much thought. I think you feel as if you're indestructible when you're 20. Anyway, one day I was cycling home as usual, along a busy street. It was early evening, and I was in the inside lane. Suddenly, the car which was slightly ahead of me decided to turn right. As far as I know, he didn't signal, and he drove right into me. I had nowhere to go, and there wasn't time to stop, so I ended up crashing my bike into the side of the car. I flew through the air across the hood of the car. The next thing I knew, I was lying on the sidewalk. I realized that I must have been unconscious, at least for a short time, because there was a group of people gathered around me when I woke up. Most of them were talking about whose fault the accident was. I sat up quickly, and a couple of the onlookers suggested that I should take it easy and go to the nearest hospital. I was feeling a bit shaky, but I was basically fine. Not even a scratch. Several eyewitnesses confirmed that the driver had turned right without signaling and caused the accident. The driver of the car apologized. He said that he was relieved to see that I had not been seriously hurt. A couple of people told me that I should have been wearing a bike helmet, but I have always hated wearing bike helmets.
Okay, so now we're going to listen to the first part of the recording and then answer these questions true or false. And if they're false, you can correct them.
When I was at university, I used to ride my bike to school every day. My university was in a big city, and there was a lot of traffic on the road, but I never used to give it much thought. I think you feel as if you're indestructible when you're 20. Anyway, one day I was cycling home as usual, along a busy street. It was early evening, and I was in the inside lane. Suddenly, the car which was slightly ahead of me decided to turn right. As far as I know, he didn't signal, and he drove right into me. I had nowhere to go, and there wasn't time to stop, so I ended up crashing my bike into the side of the car. I flew through the air across the hood of the car.
Right, so Maurice used to ride to the university every day. That was true. He says he was riding on the inside lane. That's true. He is recalling a story that took place in the morning. That was false. It was early evening. The car ahead of him stopped suddenly. That was false. The car ahead of him decided to turn right. And Maurice crashed into the back of the car. That's false. He crashed into the side of the car. Great, so now you're going to read the summaries and then listen to the recording and then choose the summary that you think best describes what happened in Maurice's accident. So before you read, you can pause the video and read these on your own, or you can follow along as I read. So summary A says, last night a young cyclist was on his way home, was involved in an accident with a car at the corner of Orchard and Delaware Streets. According to eyewitnesses, the driver failed to signal while turning right. One woman said that the cyclist hit the side of the car and bounced off the hood. The cyclist, 20-year-old Maurice Ostern, said, I didn't have anywhere to go when the car suddenly turned right. Then summary B says a 20-year-old student who rides his bike to university each day was hit by a car yesterday evening. The student, Maurice Ostern, explained that he was riding on the inside lane. Apparently, as he was coming to the corner of Delaware Street, a car turned right. Maurice thinks that the driver failed to signal. Eyewitness Dean Forsythe confirmed, I don't think that the driver signaled to turn right. Maurice said he ended up crashing his bike into the side of the car. All right, so now listen to the summary, or listen to the recording and see if you can figure out which of these is the best summary.
When I was at university, I used to ride my bike to school every day. My university was in a big city, and there was a lot of traffic on the road, but I never used to give it much thought. I think you feel as if you're indestructible when you're 20. Anyway, one day I was cycling home as usual, along a busy street. It was early evening, and I was in the inside lane. Suddenly, the car which was slightly ahead of me decided to turn right. As far as I know, he didn't signal, and he drove right into me. I had nowhere to go, and there wasn't time to stop, so I ended up crashing my bike into the side of the car. I flew through the air across the hood of the car.
Right, so choose the one that you think is the best, and if you would want to describe why you think one is better than the other, you can also put that in the comments. Right, so Maurice's words and the summary. So Maurice gave information that was not included in the summary. What was it? Well, in this summary, the summary didn't talk about him being at university, riding the bike to school. Doesn't say that the university was in a big city. Doesn't really comment on the traffic. Doesn't comment on a bit his thoughts about being indestructible. And let's see, it does talk about person not signaling. So it's some of these beginning details that aren't given in the summary. So in the summary, where is the reported speech and where is the direct speech? Okay, so here, according to eyewitnesses, the driver failed to signal while turning right. That would be reported speech. One woman said that the cyclist hit the side of the car and bounced off the hood. That's also reported speech. But here, with the quotation marks, I didn't have anywhere to go when the car suddenly turned right. That's direct speech. And what information in the summary was not provided by Maurice? Well, the street names. Maurice didn't talk about it being at Orchard and Delaware Street. That's pretty much it, I think. All right, so joining clauses. So summaries often use longer sentences to combine more information. You can join independent clauses with a comma and coordinating conjunction like and, but, or so. And here's some examples. The car failed to signal, comma, and it caused the cyclist to hit it. The car went onto the pavement, comma, but no one was injured. So you use a comma to separate a series of nouns or phrases, and this is common in a summary. Alan hit the car, comma, bounced onto the hood, comma, landed on the pavement, comma, and screamed in pain. Or she could play the piano, comma, violin, comma, clarinet, comma, and even the harpsichord. Clauses that begin with although, when, while, if, since, and after need a comma before the main clause. So after he turned the corner, comma, he realized that he'd hit something. And although Mrs. Jacobs saw the accident, comma, she couldn't remember what happened. All right, so now make some sentences that summarize. So combine all the important information into one sentence, and you can write more than one answer. There might be more than one way to combine these. So go ahead and pause the video, try these on your own, and then we'll restart to look at some possible answers. But again, you might have some different answers that are still correct. If you have any doubts about your sentences and whether they're correct, feel free to share those in the comments and we can generate some discussion about the answers. All right, here, so Toby bought a book, comma, went to the park, comma, and read for about an hour. Jane studied law, comma, but she never became a lawyer. Elizabeth collects stamps and coins, comma, and she likes to paint portraits. He felt upset after failing the exam, comma, so he decided to study harder. Although she was only 17, comma, she managed to sail solo across the Pacific Ocean. Rochelle arrived in Boston, comma, took a taxi to the hotel, comma, and immediately went to a meeting. And at age 8, comma, William used his mother's credit card to buy things online, such as video games and clothes. And again, if you have some different ways that you combine these, feel free to share those in the comments. All right, so now we're going to listen and note in what order Maurice mentions these things.
The next thing I knew, I was lying on the sidewalk. I realized that I must have been unconscious, at least for a short time, because there was a group of people gathered around me when I woke up. Most of them were talking about whose fault the accident was. I sat up quickly, and a couple of the onlookers suggested that I should take it easy and go to the nearest hospital. I was feeling a bit shaky, but I was basically fine. Not even a scratch. Several eyewitnesses confirmed that the driver had turned right without signaling and caused the accident. The driver of the car apologized. He said that he was relieved to see that I had not been seriously hurt. A couple of people told me that I should have been wearing a bike helmet, but I have always hated wearing bike helmets.
All right, so commenting on a story, that's expressing what we know and commenting on what we hear. So expressing what we think and what we heard. Surprisingly, no one was injured. Amazingly, they found their way home. Fortunately, he was able to continue, and luckily, she managed to finish. And other expressions comment on secondhand reports. Apparently, people saw flames coming out of the building. It appears that the police arrived within minutes. According to onlookers, he crashed into a wall, and it seems the explosion occurred around midnight. All right, so now make examples of reported speech using the words and expressions, and you can make any other changes. So again, you can pause the video, try these on your own, changing these sentences into reported speech, and you can use any of these words that seem appropriate. All right, and again, these are just some examples, and if you have other thoughts, you can share those in the comments. So she was using her phone and walking across the street. According to eyewitnesses, the driver used his horn, but she didn't hear. Amazingly, another woman pushed her out of the way. Incredibly, she only bruised her knee, and it seems that the driver of the car was furious. And again, that's just one way to make reported speech. You have other ways that you'd like to share. Put those in the comments, and I would invite you to then give each other feedback on your sentences. All right, so now you're going to write a shorter version of this half of a sports article. So you can pause the video, read the article on your own, or you can follow along as I read. Last night was the first semifinal of the Men's National Open Tennis Championship in Toronto, Canada. The match was between second seed Tristan Johansson from Sweden and the unseeded qualifier Spanish player Jose Luis Gonzalez. This was the first time these two had played each other, and many people expected Gonzalez to be outclassed by Johansson. The first set began badly for Gonzalez, and he looked angry and frustrated as Johansson raced to a 4-1 lead. At this point, many of us watching were of the opinion that Jose Luis needed to raise his game. In a post-match interview, Tristan Johansson's coach agreed that Tristan made an excellent start, although he also mentioned that Jose Luis didn't play his best tennis in the early stages of the match. So you're going to answer these questions. What's the most important information? What information do you think you can leave out? And then write several sentences to explain the most important events or facts, and look at reported speech. And can you imagine some of the direct speech? And then write your first draft and use this checklist to look at it. See if you can join any sentences together with a conjunction like and, or, yet, or but. Can you join sentences that have the same subject? Have you added some reported speech? Can you add any direct speech? And have you used any adverbs or expressions to comment on the match, like luckily, fortunately, etc.? All right, now here's the second half of the article, and you're going to do the same thing again, or we'll read this. You can either pause the video, read on your own, or follow along as I read, and then you'll answer the questions and write a summary of the second half of the article. So Tristan Johansson went on to win the first set 6-2, but then everything began to change as Jose Luis Gonzalez started to play more confidently. In my opinion, the second game of the second set was the turning point for Gonzalez, as he served 3 aces in a row. Tristan Johansson started to look tired and make more mistakes, and Gonzalez took full advantage, winning the second set 6-4. The third and deciding set was close, but Jose Luis Gonzalez held his nerve to win 7-5. In his post-match interview, he stated that he was enjoying playing in Toronto, and he thanked the local crowd for their support. He told reporters that he was thrilled to be in the final of a major tennis competition for the first time. He will meet Tyrone Williams from the U.S. in tomorrow's final, and based on this performance, I think he has every chance of winning his first title. So again, you'll do the same thing. What is the most important information? What information can you leave out? Write several sentences to explain the most important events or facts, and look at the reported speech and can you imagine the direct speech? Again, look at joining any sentences, using conjunctions, adding reported speech, adding some direct speech, and using some adverbs or expressions to comment on the match. All right, so this is a fairly challenging task. And again, if you would want some feedback, you can, I'd invite you to put your summary into the comments, and for everyone else to use this checklist to give some feedback to other students. And that brings us to the end of today's video. Please like, subscribe, share. Again, participate, leaving comments, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.